What's up guys, ACCA qualified chartered accountant here from the UK, Freddie Tamang, coming at you with a video about a question that I get asked quite a lot on my TikTok, where I do informational tutorials and guides on how to be an accountant and how to traverse the accounting lifecycle. And one of the questions that I get asked quite a lot is, what is the average salary of an accountant? How much are accountants actually making? Now, becoming an accountant is quite difficult. You have to have some sort of formal qualification like a degree or A-levels, and then after that you have to do a professional qualification such as the AAT if you're a school leaver, so someone who's just getting the A-levels, or something like the ACCA, ACA, CTA or CIMA if you're already a degree holder. Now, there's a lot of studies that go into that. It can take up to 3 years post-graduation to actually become a chartered accountant. Now, it doesn't mean that you're not earning money. Once you've finished your degree, you can get a role where you do an apprenticeship, where you are earning money at the same time as doing your education, your professional qualification. This allows you to make money while learning and gaining experience, so that when you qualify, not only have you got this qualification in front of you, but you've also got 3 years of experience working wherever you were, so that it can help you get further jobs or more promotions down the line. Now, that's all very well, but to get into the meat and potatoes of everything, we need to look at how much you're going to be earning. Now, if we look at a reputable website like prospectus.ac.uk, it tells us that a graduate role for an accountant can earn up to 40k a year, which is much higher than the national average wage. Then once you're still training, your earning potential can move up to 65k, and then once you're post-qualification, it's saying that the average salary then becomes 134k with an additional 15 or higher bonus. Is this an actually realistic point of view? You might be thinking, this sounds great, this sounds amazing. After your degree, you're going to be earning more than most people earn on average around the UK. Is this realistic? Now let's look at, in accounting, one of the most sought roles for a trainee is an apprenticeship at a top 4 accounting firm. These top 4 accounting firms make up your biggest fee earners, your biggest high value income sources for accounting firms. And these are PwC, EY, KPMG and Deloitte. If we just look at PwC, for example, we can see their salaries moving from trainee, senior trainee to a qualified accountant. Now, we know that the average salary in the UK was around 34k per year. Now, we can see with the PwC, their audit associate, their salaries, so their graduate salaries, can range between 27 to 34k. Now, this doesn't even include your overtime earnings. If you work extra, you might get paid overtime. This overtime is paid additional to your salary, and a lot of accountants do a lot of hours of overtime. I know that during my accounting life, I've often done 70-hour weeks, especially during busy season. When the work is at its highest point, you have to still get the work done. It doesn't matter if you've done your 34 hours or 35 hours. If the deadlines need to be met, then you need to work overtime to meet those deadlines. Now, this incurs an additional income. And oftentimes, there were moments where I was earning a lot more than most people earn on their normal salary just from my overtime alone. So this 27 to 34 is just an estimate of your base salary and doesn't include your additional on tops. So this is quite a lucrative role, right? Accounting is a very well paid sector, and it's quite difficult to get your entry role now, and it might seem underpaid, but as you progress, you're going to see this salary get higher and higher and higher. And now we're going to move on to a senior associate working at PwC. Again, we're looking at Glassdoor for the average salary so we can get a good idea of what they're doing. So you can see here, the average for the audit senior associate role, you're looking at a range of 39 to 40k per year. Now, this is a very broad range, right? You can see it spans 15k difference. A lot of this will be made up by the fact that you might be 1, 2 or 3 years into your qualification, into your experience, when it's taking the figures, when it's taking your sort of average salary submissions. So that can skew the numbers. What also skews the numbers is your additional pay, your bonuses, your overtime, and that can affect the numbers quite a lot. But we can see that these these numbers are higher than the average UK income, and they would comfortably put you at a livable wage. And this is still all before you're fully qualified as an accountant. Now, if we were to look at a fully qualified accountant, one of the sort of more common roles that a fully qualified accountant would do is, once you've managed to get your senior associate role, you'd become an assistant manager, audit manager. These are the kind of salaries that you're looking at. Again, if we stick to PwC for an example, we can see that the range goes from 50 to 60k. This is a fantastic wage and doesn't even take into consideration the potential bonus payouts as well as any overtime you will have accrued. Now, to be perfectly clear and to clarify this point, a lot of roles, once you have fully qualified, they won't pay you an additional overtime allowance. What they will do, however, is they'll take into consideration the overtime you've done when they do your annual bonus. And the way they do that is, the more overtime you've worked in the year, the more bonus you're likely to get, right? The more the hours you put in, the better you look for the higher ups, and the more they're going to want to reward you at the end of it. And that comes in the form of an end of year bonus. So we can see here that the salaries look really, really great, but they don't quite live up to what Prospectus UK was saying. And the thing that changes this is that we are looking at accounting firms. What I really, really recommend for students to do in my TikTok videos, when I speak to students, when I answer their questions, what I really recommend they do is do their training at accounting firms. Accounting firms like PwC, your smaller accounting firms, your regional, your national accounting firms. What they do is they have specific entry points for graduates. This means that when you're graduating from university, you know where to apply, what level to apply for, and you know how to get these roles. You can apply straight to the company for a graduate entry position in your third year, and what you do from then is you enter the role, you do whatever graduate program they have. They normally have an apprenticeship scheme. They take you through the 3 years it takes you to qualify, and they handle all that. They pay for your exams, they pay for everything. Not only do you get paid a fantastic salary, which oftentimes is higher than the median salary in the UK, but you, on top of that, get all of your training paid for. Now, on the flip side, that is what we call practice, right? We call accounting firms the practice industry. Now, when we move into your companies, like working for Google or Amazon or Tesco, we call that industry. Now, moving on to that, if you're trying to get your start in industry, all of a sudden, these are the kind of job roles you're looking at. I've got an example pulled up from read.co.uk of a job role that I believe is perfectly attributable for a graduate to apply for, and yet we can see that these roles in industry, which are appropriate, I think, for a graduate to enter at an assistant accountant role, we can see that they actually require you to have prior experience. And the average salary is lower, and we're looking at London in this example, it's lower than your average annual salary in the UK, which is interesting because the entry role for a graduate at PwC, that could have been on par. Now we can see that this assistant accountant role in London is asking for 2 years experience, and is also asking to have some experience or some part move way through an accounting qualification, and that is for 32 or under. If we move to a different example, we have another assistant accountant role, this time looking at 35 or under, which would put you just above the average annual salary in the UK, and this one is asking you for, again, having prior experience. They're also saying it's preferred if you have a degree in accounting, which a degree is a level 5 or 6 qualification, and on top of that, it's asking for you to be AAT qualified, up to a level of 2 or 3, or willing to study an AAT qualification. Now, as you can tell, an AAT level 2 or 3 qualification is equivalent to a GCSE or A level. So it's basically saying they'd like you to have a degree level qualification, and on top of that, to have an AAT qualification, which is below a degree. So why on earth would you want to finish your degree at a higher level of education and then study the AAT at a lower level of education? That doesn't make sense to me. But these are the requirements that it's asking you to enter for a role that I believe, and we can see salary-wise, is on par with a graduate entry level. So it's much more beneficial for you, long-term career-wise, if you make a start at an accounting firm, do your training, all paid for, and then move on. Now let's have a look at qualified salary once you move into industry. Now this role is for a newly chartered accountant, a newly qualified. That means straight after you've done your exams. And it's also even saying that they would take you if you're almost qualified. So maybe if you've got one exam left for qualification, and the salary it offers is between 50 to 70k, which is at the upper end higher than the salary you'd be getting as an audit manager. So again, we look at the experience and we look at the qualification level. It's saying that they would prefer you to be a fully qualified or almost qualified accountant, and it's asking for you to have some experience at an audit firm, and it's offering a salary higher than what it would take you to become an audit manager at an accounting firm. Now, this doesn't take into consideration bonuses or overtime or whatever, but I'm talking about the base salary here is much more beneficial in industry, and this is something that we can track throughout, right? Is the salaries that are on offer in industry are on average higher than that in practice, but the training you get offered in practice and the entry scheme is so much more beneficial. That's why I tell, once again, all of my people that I speak to on TikTok, they ask for advice, they ask me how to get into accounting, what's the best way to do. They're graduates or they're still studying and they're looking for what they want to do next. I always tell them, find a local accounting firm, a big accounting firm, get into a degree program, get into a graduate program, do your training, and then if you want to move into industry, like I did, once I qualified, I took myself into industry and got a role as a finance manager. That's what I recommend my students to do as well, is do your work, graduate, whatever you're doing, get an apprenticeship at an accounting firm, do whatever you need to do, ACCA, ACA, AAT, and then if you want, you can move into industry at a more higher level. So there you go, guys. That is the breakdown of the various levels of salary that you'll be seeing as a new trainee, as a graduate, all the way to becoming a newly qualified accountant. And as you can tell, once you qualify as an accountant, the sky is almost the limit. The finance manager of Google was earning millions per year with an additional millions bonus. So if you get to a CFO level, earning potential is much, much higher. And a lot of the CEOs that work in FTSE 100 companies are qualified accountants. So your earning potential, the sky is the limit in that. What I wanted to do was show you the average income when you're training and newly qualified. Where you take your career after that is up to you, how much you want to work and where you see you're going and what level you're happy with. If you're happy earning 80k a year, you don't want the stress of earning more, and that's perfectly fine. You can stay at that level. It's a very healthy salary and income. You'll be rather comfortable. Unless you're living in central London, then all of a sudden you're living on a pauper's wage. But if you're living in Leeds or Birmingham or Manchester, that 80k per year is more than enough for you to be reasonably comfortable. But the earning potential is sky high. If you have any more questions, leave them in the comments below. Drop me a follow on my social media, which will be listed in the description box down below. My TikTok is where I post a lot of videos giving advice and tutorials for students, for graduates, and for people who are in accounting looking to be qualified. I answer all my questions in my DMs, so hit me up, like, subscribe. Bye!